The shadow in the mirror. A young woman moves into a new apartment and notices that every time she passes by a particular mirror in her hallway, she feels a cold draft. One evening, she hears whispers and turns to find her reflection moving on its own, mimicking her every move. As she approaches the mirror, she sees a shadowy figure standing behind her in the reflection, although no one is actually there. When she turns around, she finds nothing. That night, she wakes to find the figure standing over her bed, watching her with hollow eyes. The midnight call. A man receives a call at midnight from an unknown number. The caller doesn't speak, but every few seconds, there's the sound of heavy breathing. When he finally answers, he hears his own voice saying, "I see you." Terrified, he hangs up and tries to ignore it, but the calls continue, each one growing more threatening. Finally, he decides to trace the number and finds out it was coming from inside his own house. He turns around to see a figure standing in his hallway, mimicking his every move.
The last train. A late-night commuter is the last passenger on a deserted train. As the train moves through the dark tunnels, the lights flicker, and the passenger starts to hear strange noises. At each stop, the train seems to get emptier, though he's sure more people got on. At the final station, he finds that the train is completely empty, and the door won't open. The lights go out completely, and he hears whispers from the shadows around him. When the lights come back on, he sees a spectral figure standing across from him, staring with hollow eyes. The train resumes its journey, and he realizes he's trapped in a nightmarish loop. The Phantom Photographer. A teenager finds an old camera at a garage sale and decides to take some pictures around his neighborhood. The camera seems to work perfectly, but when he develops the film, the photos show disturbing images of people who weren't there when he took the shots. The final photo is of him sleeping in his room, with a shadowy figure standing beside his bed. The next morning, he wakes up to find that the shadowy figure has left scratch marks on his arms. The Watcher in the Woods. A group of friends goes camping in a secluded forest known for its strange legends. On the first night, they hear twigs snapping and see shadows moving outside their tents. One friend, curious, goes out to investigate and finds a series of strange symbols carved into the trees. The next morning, he notices a figure watching them from a distance. As night falls again, the figure gets closer, and they hear footsteps around their campsite. When they shine their flashlights outside, the figure is gone, but they find a note that reads, "I've been watching you all along." The digital doppelgänger. A woman receives a friend request from an unknown account on social media. She accepts it out of curiosity and soon notices that the account is posting photos of her daily life, things she never shared online. As the posts become more frequent, she realizes they include details of her private moments, like the time she was alone in her apartment. She receives a message from the account saying, "I know you better than you know yourself." One night, she hears footsteps in her home and finds a shadowy figure with an exact likeness of her face.